What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is Monday, May 1st of 2023, and I have a lot of Gotion news to report, so I'm going to jump right into the most important thing first, which is this planning meeting, Macosta planning meeting, that's going to be held May 4th, this Thursday, at 6 p.m. at the Macosta County Services Building, 14485 Northland Drive, Big Rapids, Michigan. We're going to meet up at 5:15 in the parking lot to make a plan, talk to each other, see our strength in numbers, get to know your neighbor. So I hope to see you at 5:15. I will be there. I'm not going to record until 6, so hopefully I can meet up with you at the parking lot and we can discuss the plan or the plans that we want to make in the future. So this meeting, they will be voting on making a recommendation to the county commissioners on the rezoning of Green Township from farmland to industrial. Please, 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 please clear your calendar and try to be there. A lot of people have been asking what they can do in order to help us stop the Gotion project, and I do plan on making a dedicated video on the topic, not just to stop this, but potentially to stop the Newaygo chemical plant that's coming to downtown Newaygo. 500 tons of trash through downtown Newaygo a day is what the plan is. So if you want to fight this, Gotion, and any other sustainable development projects that we don't really want on our river, then look out for that video. But for now, the most important thing that you can do is to show up to this planning meeting on May 4th at 6 p.m. and make your voice heard. The more people we have, the better, obviously. And it's extremely important because it actually did work for the Marshall mega site. The zoning request was denied, which now it moves to the city council for decision. So that's today at 7 o'clock for the Ford EV battery plant. Let's pray for them and hopefully they will decline to change over to industrial and maybe stop that mega site as well. But it worked for them so far, and so let's, use what they've done. Let's do it for ourselves. It works. It's worked so far, and so we need to show up at this meeting. The other thing that you can do right away is all of the planning meetings, the board township meetings for Macosta County, Newaygo County, all the counties, all the way down the Muskegon River. The meetings themselves, we need to compile a list of all of the important dates, so that way we can get a lot of opposition, a lot of voices to each of those meetings as well. The Michigan Strategic Fund, I believe, has meetings. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation definitely has meetings. So if we can get somebody to compile a list and share that with people, and then a list of all the people that are making decisions on these boards and committees that bypass our vote, is that's the crux of Agenda 21. They say that they want our opinion, our locals' opinion and support and ideas, and yet they go around our vote using committees and boards. So what we need to do is know when those committees and boards are having meetings, and we need to go to them and actually be involved. So one last thing, one book I really want to recommend, Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. This whole area back here helps with what exactly you can do to stop these kinds of projects. And very important resource, Rosa Corey, highly recommend. I know I've recommended it before, but now you can actually read it because I fixed the mirroring on the videos. So learn something new every day if you're lucky. Next up, I wanted to show, this has been going around. This is a battery plant in China, and you're going to see for yourself that there's no 2,000 people working at these plants.
Well,
There are
they
people, but
haven't been
look at
paying
how
that much for
automated this
lithium. The
is.
price of lithium's come down nearly 70% this year. And CATL are only passing on some of the discounts to car manufacturers. They're making massive
Do you
profits.
see very many people?
However, both of
It's
them will still
automated.
go ahead with mass
You think it's
manufacturing
going to be any different for
sodium
Gotion
and lithium
or for
batteries
the Ford battery
in
plant?
combination with each other. in hybrid combinations.
It's not.
That's what the media are saying. That's what I've been reporting on and saying for a while now, that I believe.
So I will share that video if you want to watch the entire thing. It's mostly about the sodium lithium batteries, which I haven't looked into. But the important thing is to see that this is going to be automated. AI is going to be creating these batteries. So the whole job variable is a toss-up, if you're lucky. The other thing, the really important thing that happened is that Gotion became a lobbyist. That's right. Gotion Inc. Lobbyist on April 12th of this year. So that was, let me see, 8 days before the Senate vote, securing the incentives, the $175 million that our Appropriations Committee gave to them. So if you don't know, lobbying is seek to influence a politician or public official on an issue. So what are the chances that Gotion lobbied the Appropriations Committee to get the money? How corrupt is that? It just goes to show. The other thing, look at this. The state says accessing 45,891 Gotion documents is going to cost $16,500. Why do we have to pay for information? Why do we have to beg through FOIA requests for information? The Michigan Economic Development Corporation told the Center Square it would charge $16,537 for more than 45,000 pages of documents about the planned Gotion plant in Muskegon County. A Freedom of Information Act request from the Center Square fielded a response for 48,000 pages of possible related documents, which the MEDC estimated would take 406 hours to extract from its records. For the lowest paid MEDC staff, the request includes $11,948 for searching costs and $29 hourly. Oh, at $29 hourly. Copying costs would be $4,589. How about you just give us the information? Don't you get enough of our money, our taxpayer dollars? It's utterly ridiculous. Why do we have to beg our own government for the information? The Center Square is seeking documents related to the Gotion plant, which has received millions of dollars in state subsidies. Yes. September 23rd, letter from the MEDC offered Gotion up to $1.14 billion in subsidies, county, state, local, and utility incentives. By the way, thank you for joining me, guys. If you like this kind of content, smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Those tax breaks include a $125 million critical industry program grant for a local job creation requirement. 30-year Renaissance Zone, okay. Down here it says, last week, lawmakers approved. Gotion is being paid to come here. Will pay nothing in return in terms of local taxes and will not be responsible for cleaning up its potential environmental catastrophes. Thea said, I'm probably saying that wrong again, in a post-vote statement. She's doing awesome work, though. I have to say, I really appreciate what she's doing. Raise environmental concerns about the plant's proximity to the Muskegon River. Thank you. That is highly appreciated. The Gotion plant is set to be built near the Muskegon River. The plant is yet to receive the environmental impact study or approval necessary for such a project. Neither Gotion nor economic development officials have addressed any questions or concerns about its plans for the plant or track record on existing plants in terms of environmental impact. We don't know how much water it will use, whether it will be recycled before being dumped back into state waterways, how much energy will be consumed, or how it could mitigate, contain, or expunge a fire. We also don't know how or if the company plans to secure the transportation of the highly volatile materials that go into making vehicle batteries, which are highly combustible and toxic. They don't know any of that, and yet the Appropriations Committee approved the $175 million. So, again, were they lobbied? I mean, all it took was one. It was 10-9. So all you had to do is lobby 2 officials, make sure you win. It's us. Lansing Math. Michigan pays $340,000 per promised job at the Gotion factory. $340,000 per job. The Gotion factory will create up to 2,350 new jobs, the company claims. That tab means each new job will cost Michigan taxpayer more than $340,000 per job. The per job cost would be higher if fewer jobs are created. That the plant will boost EV battery production is in line with Governor Gretchen Whitmer's goal of getting 2 million EVs on Michigan roads by 2030. 2030. Where have we heard that over and over and over again recently? Years after she leaves the office, there were only 17,500 EVs registered in Michigan in 2021. How are they going to get all those EVs out there? Force. That's what they're doing now. Force. Whitmer's plans entails giving subsidies to buyers of EVs and paying to install charging resources. It also includes exempting EV chargers from peak hour pricing. So, yeah, it really bothers me how electricity prices are going up and there could be shortages. They want to put a meter on your hot water heater because to save energy, and yet we're going to put all this energy into EV chargers and all this money. Federal government has thrown in additional subsidies for buyers and charging resources. So we're bribing people to transition. That's what we're doing, to a service-based electric vehicle. I'm going to click this really quick. Michigan lawmakers failed to turn business subsidies into job growth. Corporate welfare projects do not correlate with employment recovery. Lawmakers portray themselves as being in high-stakes war with other states over jobs, thus needing to offer select businesses more subsidies in order to grow the economy. For too long, we were fighting with a hand tied behind our back. Now we've got the upper hand, said Governor Gretchen Whitmer in her State of the State address. The governor is mistaken. The way to increase jobs is not to write checks to a handful of big companies. It's to improve the state's business climate by lowering taxes. They're talking about putting a 75-cent gas tax out there. 75 cents. That is also to decentivize gas and incentivize EVs. So now they're doing negative stuff on gas and positive stuff on EVs. The state of Michigan already has a program that allows administrators to give whoever they want, however much money they like, subject only to limits on how much money legislators put in the fund. That's different from and more generous than programs in most other states. But being a leader in subsidies doesn't translate into job creation. Half the states have fully recovered from the job losses they endured during the pandemic. Michigan hasn't. It's down 71,400 jobs, a 1.6% decrease. That is the 13th worst among the 50 states. Another reason, though, is because our governor was a tyrant for longer than most other states, so that doesn't help. Oop. All right, moving on to this. Responses to public questions that was posted on the Green Charter Township website. Again, all of these links will be in the description, so I highly recommend you check this out. I'm not going to go over the entire thing, just have a few things to highlight. First, Gotion's investment is being supported by the state through special fund for projects like this that was created by bipartisan supermajority vote of the legislature in 2021. Bipartisan. The estimated water usage for the site, based on the input from Gotion's Manufacturing Institute, is as follows. Cathode 1, anode 1, electrolyte 1. 715,000 gallons per day. This is the startup amount and will be reduced when the water pretreatment facility is in operation. Gotion has never experienced any environmental issues at any facility because they care about the local communities they choose to locate. The plan for this facility has been developed collaboratively with local stakeholders. And I've talked about stakeholders in several of my other videos, so I'm not going to do it again here, but not shareholders, stakeholders. I wanted to share this. Please provide a copy. Somebody's asking for a copy of the water study that Gotion or its agents commissioned with respect to Gotion's water needs and potential impact on the area water supply. This study was referenced by them in September 26th of 2022 joint meeting with Mecosta County Board of Commissioners and the township boards of Big Rapids Township and Green Charter Township. Did they provide that? Of course not. They provided some bull. We've worked extensively with local, state, and federal experts and regulators to ensure that our construction and manufacturing activities can be sustained with minimal impact on the precious natural resources of the Muskegon River Watershed and the Big Rapids area. We'll continue that work and be transparent with the public about whatever we find. Well, how about give us the report that you referenced? That's transparency. Don't just sit there and say, we're going to be transparent. Be transparent. Actions. I want to see action. Tired of this. I'm sure you are too. Provide anticipated sewer discharge volume into the public sanitary sewer, gallons per day, and the basis for that usage. Provide initial progress and full build-out usage volumes based on Gotion's proposed build-out schedule. Initial estimate for Phase 1, 65,000 gallons per day, increasing when Phase 2 is completed to 130,000 gallons per day. Now, what about Phase 3? That's probably behind an NDA or something. Can't talk about Phase 3 or Phase 4 or Phase 5 yet. And last thing, please identify which materials utilized or stored on site and or used in production will be of concern to firefighters responding to an incident at the facility. Material safety data sheets will be given to authorities that outline not only the type of materials in the plant, but also the locations where these are stored. Additionally, the key component of a battery is a lithium compound. Lithium as a pure element is unstable and will not be present at the facility. Only stable lithium-based compounds, such as lithium carbonate, will be present. Well, of course, I needed to know. Well, okay, let's look into lithium carbonate. This is New Jersey's Department of Health. Hazardous substance. Lithium carbonate, right here, is a white, light, odorless powder. Powder. It is used in the production of glazes on ceramics and porcelain and vanishes in dyes as coating on arc welding electrodes and in lubricating greases. It is also used as medication to treat certain types of mental illness. It's on the right to know hazardous substance list because it is cited by DEP and EPA. This chemical is on the special health hazard substance list. Lithium carbonate may cause a skin allergy. High exposure may affect the thyroid gland and heart function and may damage the kidneys. And can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. Inhaling lithium carbonate can irritate the lungs. Higher exposures may cause a buildup of fluid in the lungs and medical emergency. Lithium carbonate may be a teratogen, which means it can cause fertility issues. Handle with extreme caution. So I'm not going to get into all this. Cancer hazard, reproductive hazard. Lithium carbonate may cause a skin allergy. Long-term exposure may damage the kidneys. So you see that the chemical, that one that he is admitting to, we need to know the rest of them, please and thank you. But the one that he's admitted to, if the plant started on fire and got into the air, it would be extremely harmful for everybody in the area, within miles and miles. What's going on in East Palestine? 5 miles, at least, all the way around being affected. So something to consider. Metal industry opposes proposed EU toxic label on battery component lithium. European Chemicals Agency seeks to classify the metal as a reproductive toxin. Europe is at risk of falling even further behind China. EU proposal to label lithium toxic is approved. If it is, industry bodies have warned that they will be at risk. Okay. The call for lithium carbonate, hydroxide, and chloride to be labeled as substances that may damage fertility and unborn children was presented to the European Commission earlier this year. It is under review with a final decision expected from policymakers at the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. So Europe is thinking about banning them because they're so toxic. But hey, no big deal, right? It's the only one they'd admit to. Getting into this, the Muskegon River Watershed Assembly expresses concerns about proposed Gotion battery facility. At first, when I read this, I was happy. Of course, Muskegon River Watershed Assembly expressing concerns, that must be good for the no Gotion people. Unfortunately, I've looked into these guys and I have some doubts about whether they're going to be able to stop anything or even if they're going to want to. And I'm going to show you why. Many residents in Mecosta County and the surrounding areas have expressed concerns over the potential contamination of the Muskegon River from the proposed Gotion battery manufacturing facility in Green Charter Township. The Watershed Assembly, an organization whose mission is to protect and preserve the river and its watershed areas, shares some of those same concerns, Director Scott Faulkner said. MRWA appreciates the opportunity to address this very important local watershed issue. Faulkner said, any and all large-scale development can potentially pose significant risks to our watershed, whether it is a commercial factory development, large-scale farming, and its potential for non-source point pollution, and even large parking lots. They all provide substantial risks, which must be addressed prior to a project proceeding. And I'm sure they will. Faulkner said the MRWA believes that a careful examination of the proposed factory uses, which would include a review of the manufacturing processes and required raw materials, systems supporting fire suppression, contamination, containment protocols, expected manufacturing outputs, and a logistics plan for raw materials and completed goods is necessary. I completely agree with all that. Of course, that all sounds good to me. To date, such information has not been made available, with non-disclosure and intellectual property and patent protections being cited as the reasons. Gotion Global Vice President for North America Operations Chuck Thelen said previously he understands the concerns about the environment, but they will go to extensive efforts to protect the environment and mitigate any potential hazards, because otherwise would cost them money and create an unsafe work environment. Now, costing them money, I can see how they might be worried about that. But create an unsafe work environment, if you look into Greenville, which I'm thinking about doing a story on that, if you're interested, comment down below. The Greenville Chinese company that's there, unsafe work environment. And it was reported several times, but do they care? In fact, one person in a review of working at that plant said it's like working for the Communist Party. So, again, I'm thinking about doing a video. Let me know. Smash the like button if you want a video done on that. He said the materials used at the facility will be kept under lock and key in the humidity-controlled, clean environment where they will be kept dry and safe. We will have material safety data sheets associated with every single element that goes into the plant. Okay, so they know how to do corporate bureaucracy. They know how to do that. Even a bottle of Lysol requires the MSDS. But does that mean that we're protected? You know, just because they do the paperwork and they know which paperwork to do, does that mean that they care or that we're protected? Those will be copied and sent to all first responders so that not only do they know what is at the plant, but where it is located. They will also have plans submitted as a condition of permitting, which will include continuing control and containment verifications throughout the year, Thelen said. They will have a schedule to adhere to and will do testing of any kind of water contamination or air contamination on a regular basis and give that report back to the state and to the Environmental Protection Agency. He added they will use the methodology called failure mode and effects analysis, which is common in the automobile industry and has already been done in their other facilities. In addition, he said they will have their own automated fire suppression system, and all first responders will be trained specifically for handling any types of fires or emergency situations that may arise. We are doing everything possible to make sure the materials are stored properly and every kind of emergency is prepared for. He added that as they go through the permitting process, all the declarations for any contaminants will be addressed. The MRWA has worked with and through the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, as well as other state and federal agencies on watershed protection and restoration projects for decades, and the permitting process today is both fair and very rigorous, giving ample input for public commentary along the way, Faulkner said. Real quick, Faulkner says this because the end-of-year grant report 2022 for the MRWA, and you can see who's funding them. And you follow the yellow brick road, right? Follow the money. Federal grants, the USDA, government, USFS, government. Oh, and these are all dam removal. If you haven't seen my War on Dams video, check it out. Michigan dams are going away, thanks to Agenda 21. Dam removal. Government is we're awarding money, 105,000, 81,000. Government doesn't have money. It takes it from us and gives it to who they deem fit. And so our money is going to removing the dams. Government, 26,000. Government, you could see government, all of this is government. State grants, Eagle, so $108,000. Muskegon River Watershed Assembly Watershed Management Plan update. Grant period. So they just updated their plan. I wonder what it's in accordance with. And Eagle gave them the money. So Eagle 40,000, DNR government 156,000, 114,000. So they're funded by the government. So if the government wants this Gotion battery plant in, do you think that the MRWA will actually fight against it? I obviously hope so. I hope that they would do the right thing, but if you follow the money, they're beholden. Even though the government, the money is ours, so they should be beholden to us. But as you can see, it's not working that way right now. We have to fix that. Another thing, MRWA, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Keywords, jargon of the World Economic Forum and United Nations. Equity means cut down the tall flower called America to equal the rest of the world. Going over here, 2020, a year like no other. This is just explaining. Last fall, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy awarded a grant totaling $108,000 to MRWA. The grant provides funding to update our existing watershed management plan, which when completed will include specific recommendations for restoration and protection projects in 4 watersheds. So, just showing, who they're working for. Eagle grant combined with funding provided by Ice Mountain. So there's that, the governments are working with the corporations, okay? Groundwater scarcity impacting Michiganders. Experts say, despite being known as a Great Lakes state, Michigan struggles with groundwater scarcity. So if we go back to the groundwater, I believe it was 130,000 gallons per day. I think that would be a threat, don't you? That's more than Ice Mountain is doing. And now we're going to have another drain on our watersheds. This came out a year ago, 2022, February. I'm not going to get into the entire thing. You get the gist just from the article, and I'll have it down below for you. But groundwater, even though Michigan has tons of water, it doesn't mean we can just put plant after plant after plant after plant and not run out of water. Grand Rapids CEO appointed to state board. I think this guy looks familiar to everyone here fighting against Gotion. April 27th of 2023. President of Grand Rapids Economic Development Agency has been appointed to state board. Thursday, Randy Thelen, president and CEO of The Right Place, was appointed to the Michigan Strategic Fund Board of Directors by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I don't think The Right Place has meetings, by the way, that we can actually go to or voice our opinion, because that's an NGO, but the Michigan Strategic Fund Board should. So we need to find out all those dates and attend when we can and voice our opposition to these big sustainable development projects. The board's job is to approve the distribution of state incentives, including grants and some tax breaks. Thelen was selected as someone who could represent the interests of the private sector. He has experience in private equity, venture capital, commercial lending, or commercialization of technology. Thelen has been at The Right Place since 2021. Previously, he was a senior vice president of economic development in Denver, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and Lakeshore Advantage. He put the Holland plant in back in 2011, 2013, somewhere in there. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics from Alma College and a Master of Arts degree in applied economics. His term will run through July 31st, 2026. Jessica Sharp says, how named the Lynn is in government? Isn't that Gretchen's maiden name? Don't know what you mean. Sorry. Critics cite conflict of interest in questioning Whitmer's appointment. This was April 28th out of the Center Square. I really like what the Center Square does so far. I think that their articles are really fair. And, they say something that all the other ones don't. So I like that. On Thursday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer named the right 7 days prior, the Democratic majority of the Senate Appropriations Committee approved a $50 million transfer to the Grand Rapids-based nonprofit, The Right Place, from the taxpayer-funded Michigan Economic Development Corporation's Strategic Outreach and Attraction Reserve Fund. The money will be used for site preparation for the Gotion Inc. electric vehicle battery manufacturing plant in Muskegon County. Right now, they've only spent $20 million. And that's on the upgrades for water, the 500,000 gallon tank for fires and stuff like that. So that means there's $30 million that we don't know what it's going towards yet. And it doesn't come back to the taxpayer. If they don't spend it all, where does the money go? I would like to know. I do not know what Gretchen's maiden name is. That is something intriguing. Is it Thelen? Gotion received $125 million of the reserve fund money for the EV battery plant. Thelen, not to be confused with his distantly relative Gotion vice president of North America Manufacturing, Chuck Thelen, also served on the Economic Development Corporation in the past, according to his corporate biography. Without knowing more details, it does appear to be a conflict of interest and could have the appearance of a quid pro quo. Yeah, I'd say so. University of Michigan Flint economics professor Chris Douglas told the Center Square it also has the appearance of the Cronie Capitalism that has characterized the usage of the $9 billion state budget surplus, where the surplus has been spent on subsidizing politically connected industries rather than on public goods that benefit everyone, such as roads and bridges and dams. Thelen was recommended to the Strategic Fund Board by Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks from Grand Rapids. Recall? I'm not joking. I think that anybody that is going to go for this crony capitalism needs to be recalled. It's time for the public-private partnership crap to end and time for voting to come back. Time for the people to have a voice. This is America. This isn't global citizenship yet. As an email from the Center Square to Brink's office brought a response that there was confusion between two men sharing the same last name. Thelen is not the only strategic fund board member associated with Gotion and Muskegon County's Green Charter Township. Bill Pink is president of Ferris State University in Big Rapids, which stands to make significant money from the Gotion deal. Pink also sits on the executive committee of the Economic Development Corporation. Pink has championed the Gotion project from its inception. Right here. This was April 20th. Governor Whitmer makes appointments to boards and commissions. Dr. Bill Pink of Big Rapids is the 19th president of Ferris State University. Prior to that, he served as president. Yes, okay, so Dr. Pink is reappointed to present public entities for a term commencing April 20th, 2023 and expiring April 5th, 2027. It's funny because it actually expired April 5th of this year, but he just got reappointed April 20th. So, he's still there. This kind of conflict of interest is incredibly common in the world of economic development. John Mozena, president of the Center for Economic Accountability, told the Center Square, the MEDC and MSF boards are supposed to represent the interests of the people of Michigan, but in reality, they represent the interests of the industries and politicians who benefit from keeping the corporate welfare flowing. It's all so corrupt, and there's one solution that I always tell people, but they always scoff. They're taking our money and spending it. How do we stop that? Maybe stop giving them our money. Mozena noted the chairman of the Strategic Fund Executive Committee is the CEO of Detroit area billionaire businessman Dan Gilbert's real estate company. What's one more crony being added to the mix, he asked. Jessica says, recall from top to bottom. Yep, too many have their hands in conflict. Old as dirt. Yes, you're right. There is a lot. And that's the thing, too. If you look at the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a book I need to pick up, or no, I'm sorry, The Fourth Turning. That's what I'm trying to say. The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe. He basically says every 80 to 90 years we have this kind of huge catastrophe, basically, because the generations that have had power don't want to give it up, even though they're in their 80s. And the younger generations are ready to take the mantle, so to speak, and they have different ideas of what they want. And so there's always a conflict, but this time it is different because it's the whole world. It's not just Europe. This is affecting the whole world. So it is a bit different. I still recommend, though, that you pick up The Fourth Turning so you understand the older generations don't want to give up that power, which it makes sense. If you read the book on power, I'll have it linked down below. It makes sense. People don't want to give it up. But yeah, when you're 80 years old, man, it's time. This is just how so-called economic development works in Michigan and has for a very long time. As an example, he mentioned Doug Rothwell, a former president and CEO of Economic Development Corporation under Republican Governor John Engler. Rothwell subsequently ran General Motors' global real estate operations before being selected as the first president and CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan, an organization that lobbied for state subsidies on behalf of corporations. Republican Governor Rick Schneider became Rothwell to the Economic Development Corporation, where he played a significant role in directing subsidies in state businesses. Yes, Republican, Democrat, these are what they call the uniparty, though, is there are Republicans that are outside and there are Democrats outside of this uniparty, but that's the uniparty is really who we're up against, because they want to keep getting all our money and put it in their pockets. So they have a vested interest in keeping this crony capitalism going. But the grassroots, I have faith in the grassroots movements. Now, maybe I'm just an optimist, but I think that there's potential if we actually go local. And these globalists think globally but act locally. So we need to act locally as well to counter them. As I told the MSF board in February when I testified against the subsidies for Ford battery plant in Marshall, Mosena said, as members of this board, you are supposed to be guarding against politicians and powerful interests capturing the mechanisms of state government for their own benefit at the expense of the taxpayer. You are supposed to be representing the interests of the people of the state of Michigan. But for 30 years, this body and its predecessors have rubber-stamped some of the greatest corporate welfare boondoggles in American history. I wonder if it goes back to 1993, when the governor back then, Broomfield, I think was his name, and Pelosi ushered in the United Nations Agenda 21 development plan. So for the last 30 years, we've been trying to implement that. And Bush and Clinton were both involved in accepting of it. So again, bipartisan. In a text to the Center Square rep, Andrew Beeler from Port Huron also weighed in against Stellan's appointment. Beeler's objection includes mentions of Gotion's Chinese ties. I absolutely agree with you, Jessica. We can stop this. I have faith. It's strength in numbers. It's like in A Bug's Life, the Disney movie, that when Disney used to have some good stuff. The grasshoppers and the ants, we're the ants. And once we figure out that there's only 20 grasshoppers, we win. With this appointment, Governor Whitmer and legislative Democrats are taking economic development further in the wrong direction, Beeler wrote in the text. The Michigan Strategic Fund has already been far too willing to award taxpayer dollars to companies tied to the Chinese government, and it's ridiculous for Democrats to add a board member who has been so invested in the misguided Gotion project. Let's see. A few things I wanted to share. The Stakeholder, World Economic Forum. The most important characteristic of the stakeholder model today is that stakes of our system are now more clearly global. Economy, societies, and the environment are more closely linked to each other now than 50 years ago. The model we present here is therefore fundamentally global in nature, and the two primary stakeholders are as well. This is true first and foremost for the planet. The planet's health, we now know, is dependent not just on individual or national decisions, but on the sum of decisions made by actors from around the world. If we are to safeguard the planet for future generations, every stakeholder will therefore need to take responsibility for its part in it. Carbon tax, that's how you can take responsibility according to these guys. What was once seen as externalities in national economic policy making and individual corporate decision making will now need to be incorporated or internalized in the operations of every government, company, community, and individual. The planet is thus the center of the global economic system, and its health should be optimized in the decisions made by all stakeholders. The well-being of people in one society affects that of those in another, and it is incumbent on all of us as global citizens to optimize the well-being of all for the greater good. This bypasses this global citizen. Global citizens don't have rights. It bypasses the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and our Constitution. So Americans have rights, global citizens do not. This is a direct threat to us with this stakeholder crap. I wanted to share this because they talk about Gotion following EPA guidelines, and we would make sure that we're doing our due diligence. Michigan governor approved paper mill poisoning in poor black neighborhood for expansion. Status quo news is all over the Flint, Michigan water crisis, which is still going on, and this paper mill poisoning in Kalamazoo that I had no idea about. I'm going to watch just a couple minutes. I think it's important for you to see just how much our government cares.
It's really bad. I can't even describe it. It's just a mix of like rotten something, and it almost like the closer you get, it's a rotten smell, and it kind of goes up your nostrils a little bit. And this is at whatever time it is now, probably 6 o'clock. What is being released from that plant?
There's over 30 different toxic gases and chemicals: sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, methyl mercaptan, all kinds of VOCs that cause cancer. The list is so long. Toluene.
My point with this is I bet you that paper mill is following all the EPA guidelines. Does it really help? Does it matter?
The list is long, and every single one of the toxic gases or toxic chemicals cause a disease like cancer, respiratory disease, kidney disease, you name it.
Daughter to an asthma attack. Then she was 17. Then I found my son unresponsible. He couldn't breathe to an asthma attack. Now, due to that, my son has a trach. He's on 24-hour oxygen, and I have a life support machine at my house.
How old is your son?
My son is 32.
Jeez.
And he fight every day to stay alive. And my daughter was 17. And I have asthma really, really bad. And my daughter's twin sister has asthma really, really bad. She stay in the hospital like every 2 days. I have to take her to the emergency room to get a real good asthma treatment.
Now, how close do you live to the plant?
I live right around the corner. Right around the corner.
And I've seen video, we aired it, where you basically could see it from your porch, and you were hacking your lungs out. What was this, like 2 in the morning? Because it's a lot worse at night.
2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning.
It's worse
8
at night?
7 at night, 5 in the
Why would that
evening.
be?
It's like after 5 o'clock it get worse. The steam or the smoke comes out. But after 5, 6 o'clock, they really put it on torpedo, and it just fill up the whole sky. It looked like the clouds done came all the way down out the sky. It'd be so filled up.
I feel like they turn the boilers on and off at certain times when there's not a lot of people that, are working inside the city limits or whatever. Most of the people go home, so they just really don't care about the residents, living over here.
Hey, imagine that the government doesn't care about the residents. I'm going to leave this down below. I highly suggest that you watch. He actually has an hour-long video with these individuals and going over this paper mill. Status Quo News, they're doing really good things. They've been looking into basically people being poisoned by the government. East Palestine, Flint, Michigan, now Kalamazoo. So I highly recommend you check their channel out. Last thing I wanted to share is this, the local governments for sustainability. And I want you to see Grand Rapids, Michigan, Holland, Lansing, these places all made a pledge to this NGO to basically implement Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. And May 18th, Grand Rapids is actually having a visionary meeting, planning meeting for their big master plan that they started redoing. I believe it was 2020. So it's really important that we get involved in that as well. They're talking about 15-minute city for Grand Rapids. I'm going to do a video on this. I think it's really important that we are aware of what's going on in Grand Rapids, because obviously a lot of us go there for shopping and different things. It's the biggest city close to Gotion, you know, people up here that are worried about it. So it's important we know what's going on with that plan. If you don't know anything about a 15-minute city, I highly recommend you look into it, or you wait for my video and I will go over it. But May 18th, I'm going to try to actually go to that planning visionary meeting, because it's very worrisome. It's going so quickly. To me, I didn't know that it's been going on since 2020. Obviously, 3 years they've been doing this plan, but it's right around the corner now. Implementation should be the end of this year. So this is the last meeting, and going back to the most important thing you can do this week, this planning meeting, this commission, or this Mecosta planning meeting, May 4th at 6 p.m. Again, I hope to see you there. It is the most important thing we can do this week, is to get as many people as possible to this meeting to oppose rezoning. We can win this. Again, they showed the way. Marshall Megasite showed the way for us. So I hope that I will see you there at 5:15. I'll be there at 5:15. So thank you guys very much for watching. I believe that we can stop Gotion still. It's not over till it's over. So thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video.